to order at 6:32. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First thing we have correspondence, visitors, and public comments. Anyone in attendance in person don't like to make public comments? Seeing none. Anyone online? Seeing none. All right. Next we have agenda review. We do have one agenda amendment.
We are going to table the lighting project.
We have two agenda amendments. Okay, first of all, the lighting project under item 6. We're gonna table the lighting project until our next meeting or until an
Yeah, that would
undetermined
probably
time.
be better.
Okay, so we'll move that to our February 7th meeting. We've also been given a letter of resignation that we'd like to consider accepting. You can put that. Yeah, let's do that right after the budget. Squeeze it between 8 and 9 on our agenda. Any other agenda amendments? Okay. We have it. So we'll dive right in. Mr. Barwin is here with some students and we're going to talk about work-based learning. I didn't know if Dan and Christy wanted to introduce her. Just turn it over to Mr. Barwin. Is the right spot?
Where would you like me to stand?
Oh, come up front if you can. Or
Okay,
we'll
yeah, I
make.
could come right here. There's some slides that I would like to talk to. We have some students. Somebody.
I'll do the sharing.
okay.
I'm slow on the uptake today.
That's all right.
Feel free to grab some chairs and let the students come right up to the table.
Absolutely. Laura,
Grace Gallagher and Chase Roy.
Yeah.
And we have one other student.
Is on the Zoom. Emily, can you hear? Yeah, there she is right there.
she
Okay.
is here.
So I'm Richard Barwin, and I'm the work-based learning coordinator here at the school. Just an overview of the program, kind of an informational brief. So to share with you what we're doing this year and where we hope to go in the future. Next slide, please. Little background on work-based learning. 2013, the legislature passes Act 77, stipulates flexible pathways and personalized learning in high schools. That gives rise to this concept called work-based learning. This is something that has been in career and technical centers time immemorial. It's been here in our ag program, but it's never been available to every high school student. Act 77 creates this as one of the identifiable and articulated pathways to career and college readiness. Next slide. So the intention, the beneficial intention of work-based learning, which is being borne out in practice over the last 5 or 6 years, are these. The first thing it does, probably most importantly, is it gives students a much more significant voice in their education, increases their agency. It allows them to break out of the barriers of the high school. It allows them to interact with the community and learn those things that can only be learned in the community. It allows students to network professionally, very important, particularly for soon-to-be graduates. Increases student engagement. We find that it increases attendance, reduces truancy, and certainly reduces dropout. It also gives students a head start on their career. A lot of kids, a lot of students, young adults are ready to start a career by the time they're in their high school senior year. Next slide. Work-based learning provides a variety of different opportunities, starting from the broadest and simplest, working all the way up to the most specialized commitment to a career. So 4 categories: awareness, exploration, preparation, and career training. Career awareness is really just finding out what's out in the community, what opportunities are available, and also doing a little bit of a self-assessment on what it is you want to do with your life, what career you think might be appropriate. It's a rule in, rule out as much as it is to choose. So we want to rule out those things you're not interested in as much as ruling in the things you are. Next step is a little more specialized. This is individual students doing informational interviews, job shadows, or short unpaid internships. They've gone beyond knowing what's out there. They want to get a feel for what it's like to actually, I call it the curb appeal of a particular career field. Next one is career preparation, work-based learning. This is where high school students can work full-time or part-time in employment. They can enroll in a career and technical center like Cold Hollow Career Center, Northwest Career and Technical Center. And this is where we bring in transition services, specifically Higher Ability and WIOA, and I'll talk about those in a minute. And then the highest level are these registered apprenticeships. I consider this to be the gold standard of high school to career transition. Registered with the state, working under a licensed professional. And then the second piece is career development classes. These are offered through the same career and technical education centers, but these are used to be called adult education. They're called career development classes now. They cost money, they're very specific, and they lead typically to a license or an industry recognized credential. Next slide.
Devin, could you put age levels or grade levels to those? I mean, you just went through those categories, but to be honest with you, I'm not sure if freshmen get to be apprenticeships, I doubt it.
Right,
But
if
if
you
you
go
help,
back.
just kind of do grade or age levels?
Well, we start in 10th grade with a course, a mandatory course called Career Explorations. And then in order to do one of the off-campus work-based learning experiences, that's a senior year project. In between the 10th grade course and the senior year getting off campus and working, that's where we do informational interviews, job shadows, unpaid work experiences, and we can do field trips in there as well. So typically off campus, long-term, seniors, and the career course 10th grade, and then in the 11th grade, we fill in with those individual experiences, short-term experiences.
Is any of this tied to the exploratories we hear coming out of the middle school, or are they just something completely different?
It tied into the, in this way is that, for instance, we have an exploratory called Intro to Trades, where the students in 7th and 8th grade will learn real fundamental tool identification, tool use. So it does set the stage for later on self-assessment. Is this something I like, or is this something that's not for me? So there is a tie-in.
Okay, thank you.
And also, while we're here, the red letters indicate that these have to be managed by a learning agreement between a formal learning agreement between the host, the school, the parent, and the student. Next slide.
I got a question, if you can go back. So it looks like the career awareness, there's actual class in 10th grade that gives them. So what about career exploration and preparation? How is there a class? How do they get involved in that?
So it's on an individual basis. If I'm working on, for instance, I'm working with a student right now who's interested in becoming a game warden. So they come to me and they say, I'd like to do a job shadow with a game warden. We set that up. That's happening Thursday this week. So we do that on an individual basis. It's not a class because it's just one event at a time. Mm-hmm. And so they come to me, set up a job shadow. We have an essay, a pre-job shadow essay, post-job shadow essay, and but it's a one-on-one, no class.
So, like, how many students do you have in those categories?
Right now, a dozen,
Okay.
10. Yep. These are numbers for the year. This is senior students enrolled in work-based learning off campus. 35 students total enrolled, and that number, there's a little bit of churn in there for scheduling reasons, and some kids decide that it's not for them, others decide that it is for them, but 35 right now. 4 students in full-time career positions. They're working with local high-quality employers in either near full-time or full-time positions that are going to lead to a career when they graduate. We've got 30 students that are in part-time employment and 1 student in an unpaid internship. That's the rarest of all. Students like to get paid for their effort. Next slide, please. This is the breakout by career field. We have 3 students in agriculture, 6 in automotive, 5 students in manufacturing, 1 student in healthcare, 1 student in the trades who we'll meet tonight, 18 students in retail and service, and 1 student currently is unplaced. We're trying to get in between jobs right now. Next slide. Okay, so these transition services are very important to us. We work with 2. The first one is the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, and the other one is Higher Ability. Both of these are federal Department of Labor programs that support transitioning unemployed, underemployed students, or underemployed, unemployed, and students from high school into a career, into high quality employment. They bring to the table some things we don't have. The first thing they bring is they have money that they can pay a student's wage and cover their workers' compensation costs during the train-up period when a student first shows up at a business. And they're untrained, and it's a lot of work and a lot of input on the part of the employer to train them up. Those funds offset the effort that is incurred, offset the cost that is incurred by the employer. They also have, particularly WIOA has funding for non-college credit courses. For much like dual enrollment, they have money that pays for commercial driver training, welding training, L&A training, and those kinds of non-college credit producing training. We have 3 students enrolled in the CDL program, 1 in the welding program, 2 are in general employment support, and 3 students in higher ability. Very similar programs. The biggest difference is in the eligibility requirements for each of them. But those are excellent multipliers for our program. Next slide. So this is moving forward where I see the program going in the next year or 2. The first one is to build capacity in the community. There's a lot of businesses that would be interested in supporting students, both in career exploration and in employment. We don't have a system right now to map, document, and store that. It's coming down the pike. Be Unbound /Emblaze is an online phone application that it's a meeting place for students and for businesses to be able to make connections so they can support, so businesses can support students. I think next Monday, we're going to have a launch. It's going to be countywide, Franklin County-wide, and we're going to try to launch it next Monday. A greater emphasis on career exploration. Right now we have a real strong presence in 10th grade, we have a real strong presence in 12th grade, and there's a weakness, or there's kind of a gap in that rule in, rule out period. So we want to get more job interviews, informational interviews, more job shadows, more tours, more short-term internships. So kids have a better understanding by the time they get to that 12th grade year what they're going to do. We want to be more attentive to the screening of applicants to make sure that work-based learning is the best educational path for what their career and college goals are. It's applicable to many good careers, but we want to make sure that people aren't just going into that to make some money and to earn some high school credits in their senior year, that it really is a process to transition them into the career of their choice. And the last slide, I believe. So this is what we're doing this year. Green is behind us. Blue is on deck, and red is in the aspirational planning stage. We took a trip. We took 20 kids to Superior Technical Ceramics. We had one hire. It didn't work out the way we wanted, but it did get the kids to see Superior, and it got an opportunity for Superior to meet some of our students. We did a one-student tour of the Advanced Welding Institute. Right now, student intends to attend after graduation. We have a field trip to Husky Injection Molding at the end of the month. Husky has been one of our best partners. We've probably had more students start part-time there, work through their apprenticeship institute, and are now working full-time there in really high-quality employment. Game warden interview Thursday. A lot of students are looking to job shadow in early education, elementary. We've got 2 coming up at Franklin Elementary School. A vet tech job shadow. Those are all have been confirmed. And then the last 2 is we want to take the appropriate kids to Vermont Precision Tools and Leader Evaporator. Those are 2 of the companies that hire students out of high school into really high quality employment. And subject to your questions, that ends my presentation.
Way back, maybe the first third of your presentation, you talked about, I think it's either student placement, but is it local here or is it in what you just showed us?
Could we go back to that slide?
This one? Or the different slide?
I think it's after that. Yeah, 4 students, full-time career positions.
Right, right.
Is that local here?
Yes, yeah, those are all local. Everything is local
Okay.
so far. Emily King's going to talk about her experience last year. That was out of sector. Even though sometimes kids work out of sector, and out of sector, to me, that's beyond St. Albans. We try not to do that simply because of the exposure travel time.
So the 4, I saw that and I thought I understood it. Now you say it did. But if you go to the end, where do those 4 fit in your last slide?
Okay, in the very last slide.
So they've already gone through that, right? Or not?
Oh, so this is what we're doing. This is future. Those kids are working in a placement. As a matter of fact, they're at work right now. And of that 4, I don't think any are going to go to the Husky Injection Molding. What we do is we hand select students for each one of these events based on their aptitude, their aspirations, and what they're looking for.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Emily, can you unmute? Oh,
Yes. Can you hear my audio all right?
we can. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Emily King. I'm currently a freshman at Clarkson University, but I just graduated last year. I was part of the work-based learning program my senior year. Every week I got out of class and I went down to UVM a couple times a week. I worked in the engineering biomaterials laboratory, where I did some pretty cool things, and I got to work with mechanical engineers, and that helped inspire me to become a mechanical engineer myself.
Any questions for Emily? This is a really interesting, I get, one of the advantages of my job is I get to place students. So Emily was working with one of our science teachers. Science teacher came to me and said, "We got a student that really has exhausted all of the opportunities for learning in the building. Can we get them out someplace?" We did some cold calls, found the engineered biomatter research laboratory at the Vody building in the engineering department. Made some calls. Professor Fiorini, Dynamo, just embraced the whole process, and the school supported this with mileage. It was a great program, and this is a little different because this was an unpaid internship, and so we have to go through a long process of safety assessments and of we have to make sure, because if it's unpaid, our school insurance covers it, and it's just a little bit more, we have to be scrutinize it a little closer, so we did. And I think it was a very interesting, very productive experience. I don't want to speak for Emily more than that, but.
It was for sure. Like I said, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to major in until I had this experience, and I went there and I worked with a bunch of different people doing different things in the lab, and they were all mechanical engineers. So it really opened my eyes to what a diverse degree it is, and I can pretty much do whatever I want in life with it. So without the work-based learning experience, I might not have come to that conclusion like I did. So I'm very thankful for it.
That's great. Emily, how did you get involved with the work-based learning program? Did you approach teachers here? Was it your parents' idea, guidance counselor idea, science teacher's idea?
So I had been working with Miranda Redmond for a while, one of my science teachers freshman year, actually. And we were always looking for opportunities for me to get out in the field and have experiences in the lab. And we learned about the work-based learning program through Mr. Barwin, and then we started working with him, and that's how I came across this opportunity.
I just got one question. So what were you doing prior to the internship? And
just taking my normal high school classes. I had a little bit of lab experience down at UVM a couple of years prior to that. I think it was the summer preceding my freshman year. So I was familiar with that kind of atmosphere, so I knew I kind of wanted to get back and do something like that. So when this opportunity came along, it was perfect. But yeah, I wasn't really interning before that.
and when you applied for Clarkston, did they take into account the internship that you did at UVM, and did that help?
Yes, absolutely. To see like previous research experience on a college application coming from a high schooler is a pretty big thing. And a couple of the colleges that I applied to, they actually wrote back to me and they specifically said like, hey, we'd love for you to continue your research here at this college. So I think it did make a big difference.
Thank you.
Anything else for Emily?
Emily, thanks for making time from your college day to come to us. I think it's great. And I know that this board is particularly interested in finding out what our recent grads are doing. So,
Yeah,
so
of course.
thank you very much. And hopefully you'll maybe be able to give us another update in a couple of years, if not before.
I'd love to.
Great.
Thank you, Emily. We have a couple other students here.
In no particular order of importance here, I'd like to introduce you to Chase Roy. And just Chase was graduated last year, was in the program all year last year, and I won't steal any more of your thunder. Chase, go ahead. So.
Okay, yeah. So I was in the program last year. I started at Vermont Precision Tools, and I would show up to school for like my first 2 classes. Excuse me. I leave around like 10:30, 11, and I go put in a full work day at Precision Tools. And just from being in like in a company like that, they kind of realized, hey, he's going to school and he's putting in a full work day after, and he's working every Saturday. So it kind of gave me the opportunity to work my way up. I started off at like $15 an hour. No, I thought it was good money at the time. I started off as machine help, so I was washing the parts, bringing out as a machine operator. And so I've been there for a little over a year now. I moved up to machine operator. I'm almost close to about $24 an hour. And that's through working through high school. I've been full-time for about 6 months now. And without work-based learning, I probably would be struggling with a job right now. Because given an opportunity to go to a big company like that, acknowledges how young I am, to work every day, you know, sometimes more than half of the adults there, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
That's great.
And I gotta say, Vermont Precision Tools is one of the, you know, they make those opportunities. It's a great company, particularly locally here. You don't have to go very far to get a great career.
Chase, how did you get involved with the program?
Well, because due to COVID, how COVID hit, so we really never had school, so I just started working instantly. So when we actually, my senior year, there was actually no mask mandate, so I did like 3 days worth of full school, and I'm like, okay, I'm not doing this. So I went to Mr. Barwin about getting into the work-based learning, because well, mostly at first it was the credits, then I actually started paying attention to the class and understanding there's a little bit more than just the credits to it. It kind of just shows you like the outside world, and plus personal experience from Mr. Barwin helped me kind of open my eyes on how life really is, and like kind of steps to kind of be successful as a young age. So I actually started taking it a little bit more seriously because I was skipping classes a lot, typical high school senior. So after I started taking the class a little bit seriously, got into precision tools, it was kind of just step by step after that.
Yeah, that's great.
Chase or anybody, I'm just curious to, great example that you set are the classes coming up now. Are they seeing what Chase has done? Are they, to promote the program?
Not enough. Our first 6-7 years ago, we put about 5 kids at Husky. Nothing draws more kids into a company than the success of the kids just ahead of them. Once they,
Okay, just to follow up on that, I have a buddy that, he's 2 years older than me. He works at Husky. He worked at Husky through his work-based learning. And this actually got me into going to work for a manufacturer like Precision Tools, because I seen the things he owns, like, just pay attention to the things he has, pay attention to what he's doing in life. And I'm like, okay, yeah, we're gonna do that, start young. Because, kind of just
Exactly.
take it in.
but it's a really good point, is that seeing somebody go ahead, it creates a vortice that just pulls other people. These are great jobs. And I tell a funny story, is that I come by exit 18, get my coffee in the morning, just about time the shift changes at Husky Injection Molding. And sometimes the kids who I work to put there will see me with my coffee and my donut, and they'll say, hey, we'll pay for his stuff right there, because they're rubbing in that they make such good money. And they're driving a nicer car than I do. But it's very satisfying to know that, they're independent, they're committed to the community, they're here, they're growing up in real good stead. So it's great to see that they've done that, and then to see Chase coming right behind them.
What happens if a student or a potential has transportation issues?
It's an excellent question. Transportation is our biggest obstacle. It's the biggest obstacle for me getting students into this. Because if a student doesn't have transportation, they're kind of disqualified from participating. And sometimes being able to get out and experience receiving a paycheck for good, honest work, it has such a clarifying effect on a student's mind and on their goals. It would be wonderful if we're always trying to solve that. It's a very difficult problem. All schools have it. So it's tough. It's a great question. It's a tough problem. It's always on my mind.
Have you approached the employers with this issue?
Yes, and just recently this year, I've talked with Husky, who is, we're going to see them here in a couple of days. We've talked about all of the companies locally putting together some kind of shuttle service where with a shared cost. It's a conceptual idea. We haven't put any numbers to a piece of paper, but they're anxious to meet our students. They like the students that come out of Missisquoi Valley Union High School. Hardworking, smart, very reliable. That's what they want, and I think they're willing to pony up a little bit for that. But right now it's kind of an amorphous concept. There isn't really a center of gravity, but I think there's that interest in industry. 89 is kind of a corridor, from Perigo up, from exit 18 up to here.
My turn.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm Grace. I'm currently a part of the work-based learning program. I first heard about it last year, so my junior year, when I decided that I wanted to go into a trade. So I got in contact with Mr. Barlin. We really confirmed that. I was already committed to a job working at a pool store until November 1st of, this past year technically. So I worked there, and then as soon as that ended, I went to Mr. Barwin, told him I wanted to get an interview with Rainbow Electric. He set that right up for me, got my interview, and I've been working there for about a month now.
So are you getting training to?
Yep. So I work there on the days that I don't go to school. So the way my schedule's set up, I have one full day off, and then I have one day of schooling. So I will go work 8+ hours with them. I'm working right by their side, doing the work that I'm doing the grunt work right now. It needs to be done. They don't really want to do it, so I'm just there to do it. But I'm learning a lot while I'm there.
Will this lead to a license?
Yes. So once I graduate, the classes start in October. They go about, is it March, April?
October 10th, April 20th.
Right, something like that. It's 2 nights a week for 3 hours online. So once I'm graduated, I will start those classes. My employer will pay for them for me. All I gotta do is pay for the books and stuff.
You have an apprenticeship for how many years? You have to work through an apprenticeship.
It's 4 years to get licensed, and then 2 years after that to become licensed, or as a master electrician.
It's a long,
It's long, and it's electric 1, electric 2, electric 3, electric 4, year-long courses, VTC, really high quality, but you get a license, and 2 years later you have a master's license, and it's a career, it's a
at
profession.
the end of the road, it's very, end of the road is very good, I know.
You know,
Absolutely.
electricians like
But it's a
crazy.
long road.
Absolutely.
So are you gonna commit to stay here in Franklin County so that we can call you in a year?
I cannot confirm nor deny.
Fair enough, but I think it's really exciting to see a young woman interested in that trade. It's a really lucrative one, and there's just, I think the average age of electricians is 50-something years old, and it's pretty exciting to see you doing that.
Thank you.
I know in the few conversations I've had with Grace about this, just talking the other night during the basketball game, and the day before she was, or that day, you
That
had
day.
2 different work sites, 2 different types of jobs, so she's getting lots of different types of experience.
Yep, we were in Sugarwoods that day, wiring out to a pump house from a sugar house, and then we went to a food packaging building. So it's two very different atmospheres in one day.
So Grace, will you be going to VTC, or are you just doing that online?
No, I would just be doing the online course.
So do you get, and I'm kind of clueless, so do you get a college degree, or no, you get a technical degree?
I
or-
could do it, so I could get the college degree as well. I could get associate's degree. I don't think I'm going to be going down that route. I think I'm just going to get the technical degree as licensed as an electrician.
And because you mentioned the courses were at night, you're gonna be busy, but you're gonna be making money
Right,
the whole time.
I'm working and learning these whole months up to the class, so hopefully I'll have the prior knowledge, and then I'll be working through the class as well.
Right.
So I'll be applying what I'm learning as I'm.
Right, so you're gonna be working 40 hours a week probably, and then doing the courses at
Right.
night.
Yeah.
I have one question for you, Grace. So by the way, that's pretty cool, both of you, that you guys are doing that. Just to be out there working, it's you should feel good. But I have a question. So what do your friends and peers think of that? Like, what is the attitude amongst like those who are like, I'm gonna go and work and like take a trade, versus like some who are like, oh, I just want to go to college, I don't want to work. Like,
They joke about me like not really being in school because I don't need the credits. I'd rather go and like work and like get that experience instead. And they joke that they're going to be leaving me, but they find it pretty cool that I'm working and taking a different alternate route other than just traditional college.
and do you feel like you get the support in terms of everyone kind of understanding that whatever route you pick, like, it's
Yeah.
fine?
I-
And
At first, there's a few people that are like, really, you're doing that? Because for freshman and sophomore year, I packed my classes with CP and AP stuff. Like, I took the hard classes. But they were a little surprised taken back at first, but now I think that they really understand it. Like, especially as I'm working now, they see that I enjoy it, I'm committed, and I want that to be my future.
And just a question for you, is it, do like the students understand that as they get closer to like the real world, that real world experience in jobs almost starts to make like more of a difference in terms of getting hired and diversifying and doing different things, that really plays into it along with whatever education they get?
Well, I think that that's a piece, if I were to say if there was a weakness right now that I'm looking to, that gap to fill is between when they leave careers and when they sign up for that work experience. It's not uncommon for a scenario like this to happen. Somebody will come to me and say, I have decided I want to be a phlebotomist because I read about it and it seems like a great thing. They will go to a phlebotomy training program, put their cash on the table or put their time on the table and realize that they faint at the sight of blood and come back. And what we're trying to do is do that rule in, rule out, is get kids out there into the real world to see what it really looks like at a job. You know, schools are good at what they do here, but they don't always replicate the conditions that exist in a real job. And so the more we can get kids out there, not at the expense of, you know, I think I still want kids to I want their opportunities to be expanding as they approach, not narrowing. So still want them to take French 1, 2, 3, and 4, still want to be in band, play sports, but I would like them to try some other things and see, you know, because eventually everybody is going to be in a job, whether they go to college or not. They all wind up in a career. You know, that's the end state. And so best to find out what you think you might be good at, what you like, what is consistent with your values, your obligations, and your aspirations early, so you can focus your effort.
And are students finding you, or are you finding the students?
Both. I talk with guidance counselors all the time. I talk with special educators all the time. I talk with student counselors. You know, we're combing the student population as much as we can. But that is one of my goals, is to get a better screening process. We're developing a thing called a personalized learning plan. We've been building it for 7th, 8th, 9th. I think we're in the 10th grade now. Those are going to inform us what services, which best direction to help a kid go right now. But right now we're kind of, for the seniors, we're doing it manually. And it's working pretty good. But it's labor intensive.
Anything else for the group? If not, then Emily, thanks for joining us from afar. Grace and Chase, thanks for coming in tonight. Mr. Barwin, hearing from you guys is really valuable to us as a group to see, you know, really what the experience is like for the kids that are going through it and what value these programs have. So, really appreciate you taking the time to come and share with us tonight.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, no.
Has anybody generated a number for transportation? I mean, you kind of know where your students are going to go. Leaders just down the street want precision. Husky is a hike. We talked about working with other school districts, and I think it's wonderful. But I wonder if anybody sat down and tried to give an estimate.
No, we have not done that. I think about 5 or 6 years ago we had an estimate. This was long before COVID, when we were first recognizing that this was an obstacle, a choke point in the process. COVID came along, upset the apple cart. We're kind of just now getting back to normal, but it's a conversation. It's never been taken off the table. We recognize it, but you know, I think previously we never had to talk with businesses as becoming a partner. We'd always just thought about taking it out of our own budget here at MVU, never a regional process, more just us. So.
I only say that because I've had limited experience in another area, another geographical area, where we have small taxi companies out of St. Albans. There must be 4 or 5 of them. And I'm sure they have very expensive rates.
Yes.
To have a commitment or a contract that you would go.
Yes, we actually are having an employment summit with all the school districts in the county in April. And we're gonna bring people to these job sites, including Husky. And then we're gonna have a symposium. It's gonna be Tim Smith's involved, Kathy Lavoy. And we're going to be asking those questions, what are the barriers? And I know that this topic will come up. So my hope is that we can get a regional sort of commitment to do something about transportation.
I would not suggest this, but many years ago, I worked in a school district where we had a school station wagon. We did, and we took students to work-based, and we did it because we had tied into Johnson State College. And they wanted our students, and so they would offer courses their junior and senior year. And transportation killed it until somebody said, let's buy a school station wagon, and it was good for the dealership. And they now provided a car. That's kind of off the wall, but with some thinking, like Julie said, you'll solve that somewhat. Take the drug right.
And just last thing, like the internship that Emily King did, are those internships only run through your program, or are those kind of spread out or offered?
So ideally, the internship itself, the goal of it, the learning goals, how they want to create it is best made with a classroom teacher, content teacher. Miranda Redmond was the teacher who created this set of learning goals. They came to me and said, we want to build this thing, can you help us? And so I made all the cold calls, found the right place, and then so there's some safety issues and some accountability issues that we want to make sure that if we take a kid out of the school and plug them someplace, we want that safety and security to go with them. And so that's primarily my oversight, but I don't know as much about biochemistry and engineering as Miranda Redmond and as Emily now. So they have the learning goals, I create the learning plan and the safety and the transportation and get the reimbursement for mileage and stuff like that. So it's a team effort.
So are there other sort of things like that that are done in like different classes and different avenues, or is it?
It's mainly through work-based learning, through career exploration. They do have some people who come in and talk about positions and talk about jobs. We do have the tech center that comes in and talks about their opportunities as well. But as far as going out into the public to other internships, most everything's run through.
So like it doesn't expand to like other industries, like if we have like cybersecurity or we have people that are like thinking of different career fields, like there's not a way for like those students to like plug into that.
I think it's like anything else.
So if a student said they're interested in cybersecurity and they came to me, I would right away probably call up Norwich University and try and find out, because I know that's a hub of cybersecurity. They got a program there. They might be able to find something up here a little closer. But what this Emblaze and Be Unbound, this app on a phone, is to map all of the assets in the area of people that are willing to work with a student, to do an informational interview, do a job shadow, do an internship, get them into this database. You create a profile, create an account. And so if a student says, I'm interested in cybersecurity, they can go, take me to the cybersecurity people that are willing to host a student, and then they're there, we can start to make that contact and say, I've got a student for you. Because right now what we're doing is, each one is brand new, we're building it from the ground up, we're reinventing the wheel every time. We're trying to map all the resources in the area. And once they're mapped, it'll be as easy for VFA Fairfax as it will be for Richford, as it will be for Enosburg to go in there. I won't be holding on to my contacts, and they're holding on to their contacts. It'll be a clearinghouse is what we call it, for all those potential internships, job shadows, interviews in the county.
All right, thank you.
We keep talking, we get more questions. You talk about safety and stuff. It made me think, what's the parents' involvement? Do you work with the parents as well? They must have to sign off
Yes,
on
yeah,
what's going on.
Absolutely. So we have a learning plan, and it has a set of parental responsibilities, it has a set of student responsibilities, business host responsibilities, and my responsibilities. And we all agree on it. We agree on what the job description is going to be, what the hours are going to be. Those change a little bit. How they're going to get to and from work, their placement.
So the parents are all involved?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It requires parental approval.
Okay.
See nothing. All right.
No, I'm gonna ask another one.
Oh, you got one more?
No,
All right. Well, you generated a lot of discussion tonight, so we appreciate it. This is great.
It is. Great program.
We'll shift gears now.
Are we all
Thank you
set?
very much.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you, Emily.
Thanks, Emily.
Thank you, Emily.
Next thing on the agenda is a facilities committee update, specifically the Highgate Kitchen Hood Project. So from facilities, you wanna take that one?
Is that all you want to talk about? Is the,
We can do a general update, we have one item to take action.
all right, I'll try to be brief. There's minutes here, but I'll try to just hit the highlights. So the Franklin project, so that's ongoing, all the work behind the scenes. And I did see Steve's on here, so he can chime in if he wants. So John's looking at, from EEI, like to start after the school is done, so we're not interfering with the school activities. It's just, we want to make sure that if we start at that date, we'll be able to finish by November 1st and have it sealed up so we can have everything before it gets cold up and running and being able to work inside. So still looking at that. I think John said by mid-February he'll have a timeline for us when that project's going to start, but that's what we're looking at right now. He is with Steve Reynolds and Joyce, Heikki, Laura, and John and EEI. They're meeting weekly, going over all these things. So project is moving forward. So we're not ready to move ahead with the lighting project yet, but just an update. So since the last meeting we had before this one, we looked at the lighting upgrade, and the upgrade was not cost neutral, so it wasn't going to work out. After that meeting, John went back, talked to his subcontractors, talked to Efficiency Vermont about seeing if they could do any more, and he was able to actually get a pretty good deal where we're hoping, like I said, we're not going to be able to do it this time, but we'll be able to move forward with this project. As you know, fluorescent lighting is not going to be available after January 1st of 2024. So all this lighting is going to have to be converted. So and we want to have the same type of lighting in all our schools across. So this is a big project. I won't get into the dollar figures today, but it looks much more promising than it did the first time we talked about that. I don't know if you want to add any more on that, Laura, or no? Okay. And that brings us, is there anything else we want to talk about? Oh, John did express concerns about the boiler and heating system in Highgate. Heating system is struggling, feels it's poorly designed, so that's something that we're going to have to look at in the not too distant future. He did state that he was hoping it would be eligible for ESSER funds. I don't know if that's
Potentially, we're looking at it.
okay. And the other positive thing is Highgate needs a new gym scoreboard, and John offered that EEI would donate up to $4,800 towards that, which hopefully we're hoping will cover the school.
We already got 5,000 and it's only 4,800. We just cut us a check as a donation.
Awesome. So we were really thankful for that, and we did convey that to them. So that working relationship is really working out well for us. So I guess that brings us to the Highgate kitchen hood. So when I first saw this,
Before we get to that, we were gonna talk about the capital projects that we were including in the budget.
Yep, I'll let you go here.
Okay, just because that, I had the facility directors join us in case there were questions on those. But basically, at our last facility task force meeting, we have been reviewing the capital plan, which is basically a 5-year and beyond plan. And we finally had some time to actually sit and work through all of the strategies. I think we did that about an hour. It was a great conversation, basically school by school, looking at the plans year by year. So the performance contract lighting upgrade was one thing. Franklin, an issue that was identified as a priority as the additional insulation. They've done one area, but they're looking to do another area. Stephen, I don't know if you want to say anything about that.
Yeah, sure. So we did have a section of the school. We added more insulation to bring it up to today's R value standard. That was performed over last summer. And as a result, this winter, we can already see significant changes. The obvious of, it's keeping the rooms warmer, much easier. The boilers aren't working as hard, but also from a safety aspect, one thing that we've always had to deal with in school was every winter is the icicles. It would form so much icicles, from the heat, escaping the envelope of the building and melting the snow, and it created a safety hazard. So you have to knock off all these icicles every day. I took a side-by-side comparison picture. One picture was of the south side of the building where we had added insulation, and there was no icicles. And then I went to the back of the building where it has the original amount of R value insulation, and there was all kinds of icicles and whatnot. So, certainly it's great to, conserve energy, electricity, fuel. But again, there's also that safety aspect of it because kids play on both sides, north and south of the school. So
that has an estimated price tag of about $27,000, just over $27,000. As we worked through the prioritization and the funding available or proposed to be available in the fiscal year 24 budget, it was brought up that potentially that could be handled with this year's surplus. I think, Dawn, you were the one that I talked about potentially doing that because it's a low dollar amount. So
that should have a short payback. You're not taking very many years where you've done it. In fact, when he first brought it up, I was shocked.
And honestly, combined with the safety issue of the icicles hanging out.
And it's gone so many years.
So then I'll speak for Stephanie for Highgate. Again, these plans include a list of things. So this is by no means all encompassing, but this is what the task force has identified as the priority. Highgate would be getting a camera system that's consistent with the other schools, an Omega system with a price tag of approximately $7,300. Door security panel and keypads, $5,000. That's basically it that would hit the general fund. And then Swanton, I know Jason's on, but just in the interest of time, I'm going to run through it real quick, and then Jason can add anything that he would like. They have prioritized a band room floor replacement for $20,000, replacement of actuators and dampers, $35,000, door system upgrade, that's $40,000, music flooring replacement, $20,000, and the central fire alarm, $100,000. No, Jason, if any of those need more explaining.
No, not really. I mean, pretty much a lot of those things have been on our list for a little while now. So we're trying to get back to where we need to be for some of that stuff. So nope, that's about it.
Okay, and then for MVU, we have another science classroom, so it would be the last science classroom to be upgraded. Those are more expensive than a typical classroom renovation, so that's $50,000. And then the proposal to replace as many unit ventilators as possible. We received a grant fund previously to replace 20 of the unit ventilators at MVU, but there's like 112 or 120 of them. And so we need to start replacing those in some kind of a cycle. So potentially about 10 unit ventilators would be $140,000, about $14,000 a piece. Anything about that, Jason?
No, that's again just a continuation because we have so many to do. We got to get them on a cycle, just because it's going to be such a large cycle to get to every one of them.
What's the useful life of those?
Sorry?
What's the useful life of those?
Between 20 and 25 years.
It is not necessarily the most efficient system because there are so many units, but transitioning to something.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing with our design is there's no way to really duct certain systems, so you have so many individual units.
So we really need to plan for 5 to 10 of those a year, and the budget's just gonna have to have
Correct.
$80,000 every year for those, huh?
Yep.
Unless there's some potential for any state funding, or air quality is obviously of the utmost importance right now, so we're hoping.
Or would they qualify at all for ESSER funds because of air quality?
Maybe, that's that new information from the AOE in the last month or so where they said they kind of changed their mind on air quality and those kinds of safety security things. Maybe, again, you'd have to follow the entire process, and these are, I think, a long lead time, thank you. But we can, that's what I'm looking into, that and the boiler, like those kinds of things, what exactly does that look like with ESSER, but we're running out of time, unfortunately. So altogether, these items that we mentioned add up to about $417,000, and we have, after the roof, about $435,000 proposed to be in that capital line, so these could be addressed. So, I just, in interest of time, what we talked about is basically some of these items would need to be moved on after town meeting day and the budget is approved, and so that's why we're bringing it to you now.
I think we've talked about this as a committee and probably even at the board level, but I think these are the types of things we need to tell our community as we sell our budget. Most people who own a building understands that you can't go on forever without doing some replacements. And hopefully some of them are one-time expenses for the next 20 years or more.
All right, ready to move on to the Highgate kitchen hood, which doesn't sound very big, but it's a lot bigger project than just a kitchen hood. So John did explain the hood is a very complicated process. He's going to need to look at 8 different subcontractors. So there's a lot going on here. It's a tight work area, and they will need a new hood, a new exhaust fan, and on the roof, they're going to require structural reinforcements to support all this. So there's a new gas line, new meter, and some excavating work that's going to need to be done. So it's really a pretty big project, 8 to 10 weeks. And he has an estimated cost here. I know we've got a contract. It was $300,000 on the contract. Exact number.
Thank you. Too many numbers today.
So we discussed this as a facilities board. What choice do we have? We could look at bringing in food from the outside, transporting it in, quality of food, time, food container costs, transportation costs, the equity between schools. We want good quality food in our schools. So the board looked at all this, and we really felt that we should move ahead with this project. And I know Laura had stated that there is a surplus in the food service account that we should be able to use towards
This
this.
would be the last of that surplus that we generated during the pandemic, yes.
So,
I would just add that this has been has now formally been written up by the inspector.
Yeah.
So we will not be able to not do anything for much longer.
And this is not a first-time issue.
No.
Probably if you went back over 15, 20 years, you'd find that they'd get worn, cold.
Right.
Finance hitting the fan.
Because of the cost amount, I did ask for a very specific breakdown that's broken down by materials, engineering, site work, demo, roofing. So I do have a cost breakdown if anybody's interested. I also asked for another contract with a comparable project because it seems like a lot of money, right? Even though we know it's a much more involved project, and he did provide one where with Springfield School District for just about the same project for the same amount of money, having the same issue.
So we have a contract to act on tonight.
Yes.
What's the total figure that
$344,500.
came in at 344?
344.5, yeah.
So the food services surplus, does it cover all of this
Through
project?
the food service surplus that has to be spent by December covers this surplus. We still have more above and beyond that, but but this will handle what has to be spent that we're not allowed to continue to carry forward.
And this is the kind of stuff that surplus is
Yes,
supposed to be used
absolutely.
for.
Well, Laura, I think you told us, don't think we're gonna get that type of surplus in
No.
the future. Once we use this up, we'll get money back.
But our kitchens are in
They're
better shape, that's for sure.
They're no $300,000 surpluses coming down.
That's good. You said that comparable from the other school. How old is that?
It's from last year,
Oh,
well, not even a year ago, I don't think. Yeah, and it's a school district that I'm familiar with, like somebody
What school was that in Springfield? Was it the middle school or high school? Because the high school takes it as a big operation.
Riverside Middle School, Springfield.
Okay, that'd be probably a little bit bigger than Highgate, but, okay, it's good. If you need a motion at this time, I want one, I'll make a motion.
All right,
That we approve that contract for the amount noted, $344,500.
All right, so Dawn has made a motion to approve the EEI contract for the Highgate Kitchen Hood project for $344,500. Is there a second?
I'll second it, but do we want in the motion that we're gonna use the surplus food service funds? So I think we should add
That's
that.
fine.
All right, let's add to the motion that it'll be funded with the food service.
The thing I did put in there that was going through my mind, if we wanted to put some parameters on time, well, I guess the best thing, just have faith that they'll get it done. But it is a complex project to get.
I did confirm that with him today. I have an email from him that states that it will be completed, which I have with me, for this coming summer. But I did confirm that with him today. He has no reason to believe that won't be the case.
If not, the school won't be up there the first week of school making something sandwich.
He wants to keep the fire inspector happy too, so.
so is that surplus that we're talking about though, is it use it or lose it at this point, or is this?
No, we'll just continue. I have to write a corrective action plan every time we're carrying these balances, so they know we keep spending it down, and they know this was not atypical. This happened to several school districts across the state, but I'd rather not have to write the corrective action when we have need. Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Kind of thing we want to spend.
right.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to approve the hood project, say aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries 9-0.
Is Jason still online?
Yep.
Jason, I believe at our last meeting, you spoke highly of and thanked the board for a new tractor. You want to make any comments to everybody, since you're playing in the snow with it?
Sure, we actually did finally get to use it on Friday. From Swanton School, I did want to, on behalf of me and my maintenance staff, thank the board for that. The upgrade has been greatly needed, and it's very appreciated, and it's working out really, really well for us.
He didn't pay me to do that.
This is the kind of stuff, this is the that I get from facility directors, just pictures of their new shiny tractor. I said Merry Christmas.
All right, well, thank you, Peter and Steve and Jason.
I think the
and
director should have the students name it like they did the snow
There we
plows.
go.
There you go.
Hint, hint.
All right, we'll shift gears again. We have a lot of different topics tonight. Next, we have our announced tuition, which I believe there's a statutory deadline on this one for us, which is why it's on the agenda. Laura, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, there is. So every year at this time, or by this time in January, we have to announce a tuition, just like every other school district in the state. Basically what happens is we anticipate our expenses for the upcoming year. We minus out expenses like special ed, transportation, tuition, just a few little buckets. So it's just regular ed support. And then we also take into account any projected revenues that support general education. And then basically you're dividing that by enrollment, regular ed enrollment, and then coming up with what we anticipate our tuition to be or our cost to be for students remaining after revenue. Last year, we announced elementary at $15,000 and high school at $15,750. As you know, our budget has a bit of an increase this year. There's also some potential for costs like special ed costs that we necessarily can't control. And one thing with announcing a tuition is that you can only charge less than what you announce. You can never charge more. So we are never overly conservative with these numbers. So I'd like to recommend that the elementary tuition be set at $16,250. So that's an increase of $1,250. And secondary be announced at $17,500, which is an increase of $1,750. We believe we will be able to charge slightly less than that, but again, I don't want to undercut ourselves.
And if we overcharge, we keep it, right? Within a
Only
range.
3%, I think it
Within a
is,
range.
3%.
So is there a policy or guidance on how you're supposed to
Oh, yeah.
achieve these numbers? Okay.
How we create the number,
Yeah.
the calculation?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
That's why I kind of mentioned that you basically take your expenses minus, they tell you what you have to take out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So every school's doing it the same
Exactly
way?
the same way.
Okay.
If they have tuitions, flower schools.
Well, they still have to do the calculation.
What's that?
We're still required to
Okay,
do the
we do the
calculation. If we don't announce, then it's set at what it was the previous year or the previous time.
It used to be a real hot political issue. People overcharging, keeping it up.
Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make one.
What's the motion, Peter?
To accept the announced tuitions for elementary at $16,250 and secondary at $17,500.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Rex, a second. Any further discussion?
I just have a quick
Position?
question on the what we're looking at. They still have Becky Hart on there,
She completed the
which is,
calculation.
I guess I'm fine with that. I just,
Yeah.
okay.
Julie has to sign it.
Okay.
Yeah, Becky's the one that did the calculation for me this year.
Okay.
Looks like she did sign it.
Sorry.
Looks like she did sign it.
Julie, it's allowable, then I can bring it to you,
I'm
it's
just
fine, yeah.
All right, any other discussion? All right, those in favor of approving the announced tuition as recommended, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Laura, now we've done the action.
Carries
A
none.
question I didn't want to have before. What's Enosburg High School and BFA St. Albans?
What are their
Their
announced
announced
tuition?
tuition for high school.
I can tell you, I'd have to look them up in my
We always
emails.
used to see what our friends were charging.
I'll look up, BFA. It's Martha just sent that to me.
They were always high,
What was the other one you asked me? That's what I was
Enosburg.
thinking.
Enosburg.
Enosburg.
and they used to keep the money at the front.
Only if it's within that 3%.
Right, you can't keep the money if it's over, I think it's 3%.
Secondary is 18,000 for BFA,
For 18?
18. Elementary is 11,500, which we're not sure why that is. Oh, they have a separate they break out kindergarten.
But if you're looking at
I got all of them in the
$18,000,
United
3%
States.
isn't necessarily chicken feed if you got that. Got 20 kids with it.
Enosburg is, elementary is 15,500 and secondary is 18,650.
18,650.
And then they do a tech tuition also because they have a tech center.
It's just something to keep in mind. We're always thinking we want to keep our teachers' salaries in line with that, but there are other things that we should be realistic with. I think we're fine, not quibbling about it.
Alright, you ready for the big one? FY24 budget discussion and adoption. Laura, you wanna walk us through the draft 6
Sure.
changes that?
You want to share? Or do you want me to share from the?
I don't have a lot that's changed. Do you
Okay.
want me to share?
Can you put it on the screen?
The actual budget, yes?
No, not the actual budget, the actual wording for the.
We have,
That-
that's a second thing here.
I know it is, but I want to see the budget. I think we're excited on the budget.
So let's take a look at the budget. I'm not gonna,
I did not join the meeting yet, so.
Oh, I'll do
But I
that.
can.
You want it in the workbook? You want me to share the workbook?
Yes, and it's in the workbook, yeah.
we'll take a peek at both before we make any motions. How's that sound?
That's fine with me.
Alright.
I studied that thing by the hour, so.
So basically, there's a very slight increase from the last draft, $13,657. So the overall budget would be $44,983,567, or an increase of 10.34%. I'm just walking through your budget workbook. The adjustments since your last draft, we did receive new vocational tuition numbers, the local as well as the state share. It reflects the actual 6-semester averages from the last couple of years, and so that was announced from the Agency of Ed. The FTEs have increased. It went from 19.64 to 22.08 FTE, which is good, but that obviously has a little bit of an additional expense. And then the state share went from 10,876 up from 9,785. So there's about $51,000 worth of, if you go to the next slide, about $51,000 worth of additional expenses under tech tuition. Thank you for reviewing the budget with me, because you actually drew my attention to a couple small things. You had requested that I review the central office professional development lines, because that we're budgeting maybe a little bit more than what has historically been spent. So we actually moved, in the interest of transparency and tracking, we moved all the expenses into under the 1110 fund, which is a central office fund, under a 2570 code, so it's consistent and easier to track. So it was under a 2213 professional development and under 2570. You'll find it all under 2570 now. But then when we were looking at it, we also realized, as you pointed out, that we had too much funding in there for what is based on history, because oftentimes some of those opportunities are funded with different funding sources like grants. So I've reduced that line about 21,000, and then also the PD related travel. We reduced. Well, it's actually it's like travel, hotels, meals, those kinds of things. So it's not just mileage. About $8,500 of reduction, so that helped absorb some of the tuition increase. But I did also want to increase, since we were able to reduce some of those lines. I actually added some back into advertising for central office, because we are spending more on advertising with trying to be more creative with how we're posting job opportunities and things like that. So I did put a little bit of extra money into advertising. And then the other thing that you actually drew my attention to was to review health insurance to see if anything had changed for any of our employees over the last 30 days, and it turns out one of them did. So I was able to take $10,000 or so out of one line for health insurance. So that's what got us to basically the 13,000. And the next slide just shows those new numbers as far as your new estimated spending per equalized pupil and equalized tax rate. There's a link on that page to the full tax rate page. So expenditures is about $44,983,567. Anticipated revenues get subtracted. We get net ed spending of $33,981,083. We then divide that by equalized pupils, which are down about 16.8 equalized pupils. Those are frozen equalized pupil numbers at this point. And we get spending for equalized pupil of 19,149, which is up about 16.56%. We then divide that by the yield, which is $15,479, and we get an equalized tax rate with this budget draft of $1.23, which is an increase of 0.0032 cents or 0.257%. The next one, I redid the projected tax rates after your CLA impact. So you can see those here. Again, this is the piece that we do not have control over that Devin so eloquently explained at our last meeting.
Any, I know we've been over this a lot and had our deep dive and had our informational meeting. Any other thoughts or comments on the budget at this point?
Just flip back one, please.
To the CLA page or to the budget spending page?
This one. Okay, thank you.
And then I did, the last slide was just, you know, that same slide about if your home is the $200,000 estimated tax slide. I just redid it. They changed about 60 cents since the last draft.
Do we still have houses $200,000?
I know, I should probably double it now, huh?
No, I wouldn't change it, but you know.
It's always been the standard.
Well, we haven't been assessed
Yeah,
on it,
no,
so our assessed value is still.
Yeah.
Oh.
Don't worry, you're taxed for a home that's worth a lot more than that. If
know.
you're assessed at that.
I did corner Brad James at our VASBO meeting in regards to do they take into account the drop in CLA or what they anticipate it to be when they are setting the yield, and yes, they do. So while they're not overly conservative, the drop was taken into account. Yeah, so you won't have the potential for a bunch of new revenue.
Now, this is residential, and then there's another there's a different tax rate for
For non-residential.
Oh, yes, non-residential.
non-residential.
That, I apologize, I did not bring that with me. It's,
I'm not sure we need that, I'm just saying there is a different tax rate.
All right, so we'll take a look at the warning language. I'm rethinking what I just said, Don.
It's all right, I have a mentor here who has a computer screen in front of him.
Okay,
so
perfect.
Very well, very well.
So I guess at this point, would anyone like to make a motion regarding this budget?
I'd like, how do I word it? So I'd like to make it to approve the budget as it currently stands. How would you word
as
that?
proposed.
As proposed?
As proposed, yeah. We're in draft 6. So that's, yeah, approved budget as proposed. All right. Mike's made a motion.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve the budget as proposed.
Is there a second?
Don't all jump at once, I want them second.
All right. Brandon's the first, Don's the second. Any discussion?
I apologize, I wasn't at the informational meeting last week, wasn't able to make it, but did anything come of that?
We had 2 members of the public attend. We had a couple others online, 2 or 3 that jumped on and off at various points. We didn't make any changes to the budget as a result of that. There was some good conversation, general conversation around core approach and budget approach. A few suggestions unrelated to the budget, but just, you know.
That was a good.
So it was a good conversation. I don't know, any highlights anyone else remembers or want to mention?
I think the concept will help us. At least we offered an opportunity before we finalize the budget. It'll take time for that work to get out, but I think it's a nice step that we put forward, whoever put it forward, really good.
I met with JR today and he is editing that into something that's more digestible, and that will be launched on Monday.
Okay. Good. All right. Any other discussion on the budget?
Are we gonna have discussion after about future marketing of the budget?
Yeah, we don't have that on here, but budget discussion is on here, so yes, we can talk about that. I think it's in we have the timeline, so we can pull that up.
The timeline's going to get adjusted a bit
Okay.
based on, and we can talk about that.
Yeah, we'll do that, yeah. But yes, do that. After the couple motions we need to make.
So I will just say that why I most like the work that we've done on this budget, and I've been debating it philosophically in my mind since probably October. You know, what's the approach? And I've noticed this budget cycle seems to be a prioritization of this board to really try to minimize facility upgrades, not just upgrades, but just keeping what we have in good working order, getting that included in our budget, which we bring to voters, rather than putting things off, and hopefully we're on a strategy to, you know, I don't want to say never, but avoid a situation where we might have to ask voters for a substantial amount of money to, say, rebuild a whole school. You know, I think who knows what the future holds, but I think that there is an increase, there will be an increase for taxpayers if this budget passes. But I look at what I've spent on taxes for the past 5 years in Swanton, even 8 years, and my contribution to the schools for those 8 years through property taxes, I think is less than 1%. So some years it's up, some years it's down. On average, I think it was less than 1% for the past 8 years. So I'm looking at this budget as more of a reality, and I look at it as more of I put it in perspective for the past several years. And I think I'm very happy to support the budget and encourage others to really think about their vote, but most importantly, their vote. So for what it's worth, I thought that I would share my feelings on this budget that we're going to voters with, this article.
Thanks, Toby. Anyone else?
Terry has her hand raised.
Oh, sorry, Terry. Yep, go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to reinforce what Toby said, because I think that whilst we may look at it and think, oh my goodness, I really think that it's a prudent budget all around in terms of we have been concerned for taxpayers and we have been concerned for students. And so I definitely support it, and I hope that the community will come out and vote and support it as well. So thank you. I'm even going to get FedEx to bring me pay $50 to send my vote up, just so you know. I worked it out.
Thanks, Terry.
Can you send two?
All right, anything else, board members? All right, seeing nothing, we will now vote. All those in favor of approving the budget as presented, say aye.
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 Those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 9-0. Okay. Revenue and tax rate estimates, we already looked at those, I think.
Yes.
Workbook. So now we're on to the town meeting day article warning. And Laura, would you like to provide the group with an update on what's been happening down in Montpelier?
Yes, I would. It's very exciting. So I actually spoke to Jeff Francis again today, just right before the meeting. The H42 is what it's called, but it's a bill that basically would allow us to suspend the required article language that we have, not only from 25 to 29, but it would extend that to 24, which is the year we're trying to vote a budget on. That bill actually passed the House today, unanimously, I believe. It will be going to Senate Ops tomorrow, and then potentially the Senate on Friday, and then the governor early next week. Jeff Francis from the VSA believes that this has all the support it needs to pass. And it's moving as quickly as it possibly can. They actually tied it to a bill, they tied it to H42, which includes language around allowing virtual meetings and things like that, which they've done in the past because of the pandemic that they're trying to get passed again, which means it had to be acted on in a very timely fashion, which is awesome. So it all sounds great. Unfortunately, the governor, being told that the governor is not in support of this, but so it's not, we're not certain if he's going to sign, but the fact that it's passing unanimously up till this point is a good sign. So anybody wants to call the governor or.
Bob Morris, new senator, is on that committee, who's gonna deal with it. So,
I reached out to Matt Walker myself and shared my thoughts. But it's as good as it can be. We're in the best situation that we can be in, and I can't thank Jeff Francis enough for all the work that the VSA has done to support that. Sue Siglowski from the VSA will be testifying tomorrow. Jeff said he's a little too connected to it, that he doesn't want to talk too much and screw it up. So he's going to let her take care of it. But
All right, so what does that mean for us tonight?
So what that means is the second part of it is he is speaking with legal counsel in regards to what then the article would look like and what we need to do. So I have prepared 2 warnings for you. One is including the article language as it appears in law right now, so the same thing that we had last year. And then I've also prepared one that would be what the article language would look like if H42 is successful, which would just simply be shall the voters of Missisquoi Valley School District approve the school directors to expend the budget amount, which is the amount the school directors have determined to be necessary for the ensuing fiscal year, and that article language would stop. The next 2 sentences would not exist any longer.
So the percentage and all that would be gone.
Yeah. So I don't know, Julie, if you want to talk to what our strategy might be, because I know.
So there's a couple ways we can do it. Yeah.
So just for clarification, that town meeting date article, that's sitting with the governor to be signed
Yes.
to change the language?
It's not there yet. It has to go to the Senate. The Senate opts tomorrow, the Senate on Friday, and then the governor next week if it gets approved through that process.
And as far as you know, it's passing through with full support, except there's possible that he would not.
He would not sign it, but I don't know what that looks like when the House and the Senate have passed it unanimously. I'm not sure if that's something that he would do.
So therefore today we'd be voting on basically 2 warnings to be able to.
We can't vote on 2, so that's what I was gonna let Julie kind of speak to, and maybe we have to kind of work through that, and everyone in the state is doing this right now, by the way, because this is kind of unprecedented.
I have a question for Don. I'm gonna grill you on your civics. So from what I understand, he has a veto-proof, the Democrats have a veto-proof majority anyway.
Yeah.
So even if it went to party lines, what's the timing on that? How?
Oh, it's all gonna happen very quickly.
Right, but like if he does veto, is there like a 10-day, it can all happen right away?
I think there's a couple of things going. I don't wanna play amateur politician analysis, but I think that if there's something particular that the governor wants in there, they'll come to some agreement. This is an isolated issue. Also, it's always politically good if you know you're gonna lose to be conservative. You know, so I wouldn't worry about it now. I think something good is gonna come out of this. But remember, the Senate is a different place, and you have some people in very powerful positions that aren't necessarily pro-school. They may say they are, but I can't believe I can't believe but it'll go to the governor's desk and we'll get a good thing out of this.
I think the point that it does not contain cost and that it is not transparent to taxpayers is like undeniable with the testimony that they've had. I think that's why it's passing, but.
It'll work out. To even get a vote, many times these things you do not get them on the floor. They block, so.
It definitely has legs, and that was encouraging, but the fact that it was voted out of the House already.
Yeah, that's good.
With tremendous support is very exciting. We expect it to pass. The question before us tonight is I don't think that we could vote on anything other than what the legal language is today, but do we then say, have a motion that asks us to change the warning in accordance with H22 and authorize the board chair to sign? That's one thing that I think many districts are looking at doing, is having an authorized to sign should the law change motion. And just because, some other school districts are SUs that have 7 different town schools, they don't have time to have a lot of special meetings. We could have a special meeting, that would be another option.
Yeah, that's really our two options are, to figure out today how to set the motions up so that it is in accordance with the law, even if the law changes, or plan to have a special meeting after the law changes. So it'd be nice to do it all in one meeting if everyone is agreeable to that.
I really would ask if we have a special meeting. I think it's important enough to do it, but we have a special meeting.
You like to have a special meeting?
But I'll vote with whatever the majority is. I don't want it to be split. I don't want to be somebody out there, but I just think a special meeting, people wouldn't have to necessarily be here. We could do a Zoom, right?
We have negotiations on Tuesday, and so we could run something quickly there virtually. And then we also have a board goals meeting on Wednesday, so it all depends on when this passes.
I just think for our public to say, we got word from the state, so we held a special meeting, this is what we're doing. But that's just my voice. I'll vote for whatever you want.
What's the last date? When's the last date when we have to be warned?
I reached out to the printers, and they'll give me officially through the middle of next week. Probably I can push them till the end of next week, but that would be it. Absentee ballots have to be to the towns. I confirmed today by the 15th, and there just isn't enough time. Oh, Terry was raising her hand. Sorry.
So.
She is.
Peter?
She is raising her hand. I thought she was.
Who is, Terry? All right. We'll go to Terry first. I think she beats Peter.
Thank you. I'm going to agree with Don on this one, if we could do a virtual meeting. And the reason I say that is because I just want to make it clear that the reason we'd be waiting, the reason we want the language changed is because we know that it's not about transparency for us. It's about the fact that schools that have traditionally been really underfunded are penalized by the wording that is currently under use. And so for us to wait and hope that we're going to have the accurate wording that really is true to what's happening in Vermont, I think it's more beneficial for us as a community and us as a board and for our taxpayers all around. I just wanted to add that.
Peter?
I'd like to propose that we vote on the language that Laura gave us that it could be going to, and then only have a special meeting if that doesn't come about. And then we'd have to come back and change it. But that way we'd have the language that we want right now. And if that ends up passing like we feel it's going to, we wouldn't have to do anything.
That's another thought.
Yeah, I kind of like that idea because we can't, if it passes and then if we pass it and then it doesn't pass or isn't signed off for whatever reason, we can't warn it legally anyway because we don't have the authority to warn an article like that. So we'd have to have a special meeting and revert back to what we have
good
to
point.
legally.
So I would expect that if the board wants to go in that direction, we make sure the language in the motion reflects that should the bill not pass, right? So we want to make it really clear that the intention of the board is to follow the law.
So in the motion, say if the bill doesn't pass, we'll hold a special meeting. Put that in the motion. Okay.
Probably the best suggestion.
I like the concept, but what if they change 3 words in it or something like that? Then
We had a meeting.
we're back.
Or depends.
I can't, I mean, they can do whatever they want, but fast tracking this, having it, really what they're doing is having it go back to what it's been for years.
Well, we're gonna be reading, we're gonna be passing a motion exactly the.
You
how
have to
it
approve the
reads.
warning exactly as it is.
Right, so if it changes at all, then we'll have to meet. Right?
Hopefully.
That's what I
Right,
think.
and that's why I literally called Jeff Francis at like 5:20, trying to get like the most up-to-date information I could get to
He's
bring
been
to
talking
you.
with Leopold and
Yes,
others,
and Sue.
and Sue Zaglowski, who's also an attorney.
Yeah.
Okay. Then another option would be just to plan to have a special meeting and make no motion tonight. But Peter gives us the chance, he's suggesting gives us the chance of not having to have the special meeting.
Right.
And having the preferred language in place. So. All right, after all that, we've heard all the options. Would anyone like to make a motion? Peter?
Sorry, just before someone makes a motion on a warning, everyone has access to that and they all know what it says. There's just other articles.
Yeah, make sure you're taking
I'll read it and,
Okay.
and make sure that everyone agrees. So if you're ready, I'll make the motion.
All right, go ahead, Peter.
Shall the voters of the Missisquoi Valley School District approve the school directors to expend $44,983,567, which is the amount that school directors have determined to be necessary for the ensuing fiscal year.
So that's
And we'll make that motion with the caveat that if the law does not change to reflect that as being legal wording, that we will meet again in a special meeting to amend it.
All right, so we do need a motion to approve the entire warning, including Article 2 as you've read it.
Okay. So you want all that in one motion?
It'd be great.
Okay, so yeah, I will make the motion to approve the warning as written, with the exception of the Article 2, which is the way I read it.
So we have two versions, so the motion is to approve the version that includes Article 2 as read by Peter. And then with the caveat that if the law does not change to allow for this, we will have a special meeting to revise the warning. Is that all accurate?
Yes. Can I just point out a couple of things to pay attention to?
Sure.
One is the informational meeting is announced to be February 28th at 7 p.m. at Missisquoi Valley Union High School Library and electronically via Zoom. And then the other thing that I wanted to point out is that Franklin and Highgate are voting from the floor again this year for their elections. And so I have confirmed that Franklin Town Hall is still the location for Franklin, but Highgate's has changed from last year. Highgate's will be at back to the Highgate Elementary School and not at the arena anymore.
For the polling place.
Yes.
Okay. Good to know. All right, so Peter's made a motion. Is there a second?
I'd be happy to second it then.
Terry's the second.
Yeah, I mean,
It only says one.
All right, any
I'll bring it up there.
other discussion on the warning?
Yeah, I was just asking Rennick, cause he's Highgate, I think we're electing two.
Yes.
Are we not?
Yes.
That's
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mm.
Yep, thank you.
Okay.
One for the remainder of the
we'll have a
2
2
years of a 3-year term.
Alright, so MVSD.
I forgot about you.
Good thinking.
This guy's unforgettable, I don't know how
For
you
a
forgot
term
about him.
of,
starting to get used to it, taking the hands.
Rennick is the remainder, is
I have a 3-year,
and then a 3-year, and then Rennick.
2 3-years for Highgate.
No.
It's the
one,
remainder
two,
of a 3-year term,
There's a
it's
blow
2
in your
years.
bill if you needed it. Who's not very fast.
We have candidates for all of them.
Don't know about Swanton, though Terry's been working on it.
Trying. Been trying, but don't have an answer yet, so
Keep your fingers.
I'll have to follow up with Toby.
Alright, so I have an MVSD school director for a term of 3 years from Highgate and MVSD school director for the remainder of a 3-year term for Highgate.
Yes.
From Highgate, thank you.
Okay, so I'll look to Peter and Terry. They're amenable to change that motion to reflect the updates just added.
Yes.
I see a thumbs up from Terry. Okay. Good catch over there in the corner. All right, any other discussion on the warning? Give me a chance to read through all the pieces here.
I assume town meeting day is March 7th.
You did.
You guys.
It's also our regularly scheduled board meeting.
Does the motion on the meeting for the 28th of February here, does that preclude, or maybe the decision's been made, but at one point we said we might go out to the towns before town meeting? Remember we debated when we were gonna have a public.
We've had different drop-in meetings, but those, we don't call them informational, that's in the. Right.
And that's what I want clarification, because I'm not saying we will, but if something came up in one of the towns and there seemed to be an issue, we can still do these drop-in.
You can always do more.
Nobody's dropped in the past, so I guess or not many people have, so, okay. So this is the official.
February 28th is the
Right.
official
This is
that's
official
required within
designated
10
one.
days of the
Within
call.
10 days, yeah.
And we put that in the messenger because the messenger's a legal document, but can we also put it in the county courier?
Yes.
Good.
All right, any other discussion? Seeing none, those in favor of approving the warning as presented here, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Abstentions? Jen, were you an aye on that one? I missed you that time.
I was an aye, thank you.
Thanks, sorry about that. All right, motion carries 9-0. All right, before we leave the topic, we can talk about the next steps in terms of marketing and just the calendar to come.
So, I think most of the changes, I just met with JR today for about an hour, and most of the changes will be because we're, and I don't know, Julie, if you wanna speak about this, but changing sort of the structure of the videos a bit.
The last few years, we've done a video about each school. They were not particularly helpful. So we thought instead we would do a video on the capital projects and facilities. We'll do a video about staffing. We'll do a video. So we're gonna move to different topics. We've had some good, he's going to take as Laura shared earlier, he's gonna take the budget input meeting that we just had and try and break that up into small videos that we can share with the community as well. So we want to do that. As far as videos, we will also be talking about times board members can go to select board meetings, which may actually be better than separate drop-in meetings because those get filmed too. So that's just another opportunity. See if we can get on those agendas. Making those phone calls, doing things like getting information out through the variety of things we've had on our timetable, the postcards, the flyers, going to a hockey game and putting information out in the lobby, things like that. All of that adds up a great deal.
Sure.
So I'll update the timeline, and like Julie said, most of all the big things are still happening. I'm just gonna shift the dates around a little bit and add a little bit more information based on JR's expertise as far as marketing.
All right. Anybody have any particular thoughts in this arena at this point?
Can we do like an animation video?
He did talk about doing that about the budget process itself, but then he didn't think that was not necessarily a priority when we have so many other things to do, so.
I just thought like a quick 35, 45 seconds. It just kind of explains what is the cost per pupil, the yield, how does your tax rate not go up per se, but what is that other factor that does that you pay it separate from the board altogether? Almost like, I don't know, put it as a talent challenge to like students who are good at animation. Who can make the best short animation that explains what the tax field is, and here's your budget, what it means, but how do you break it down in like some little character that does it? I don't know. Just thought that might be.
Well, I can talk to JR about doing that, because he is pretty good at the animation, but, I mean, I like the idea of short, because one of the challenges we had with the school by school videos, which worked well the first year, because they were novel, but then the second year, people really didn't look at them. They're too stinking long, because everybody wants to talk about everything, and then there was a lot of redundancy. So they didn't get a lot of views, but if we can have, 3-minute videos, the 3-minute videos people watch, so.
And that's too long. I'm just saying there's multiple different, sort of like Dawn says all the time, getting out, going to post office, town meetings, handing out stuff like that, that's gonna hit a certain kind of voter. But then you're gonna have like the younger parents that, they're gonna look at this and be like, I got literally 25 seconds before I put this down. But if it's just something to just kind of explain, like those big ones, right? Like cost per pupil, but hey, like the Vermont, like Schoolhouse Rock.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if we're gonna get Schoolhouse Rock, but what we talked about today was doing these kind of longer videos now, right? Like one on facilities and the kind of celebrations, things we're doing, updates, more general, but also tying them to the budget. But then that's like for the next couple of weeks starting on Monday, and they'll be launched on Mondays. But then as we get like the month before the vote, that's exactly what he was thinking about doing. 1 minute, no more than 1 minute, cute, marketing videos with very important points. Why is the budget going up? Well, it's staffing, benefits, and inflation, and the roof. Like really, that's it, right? So just really key points, and then tax rate's been pretty flat, really, or it's gone down and it's remained flat. So we talked about all that today, and he's really on point with 45 seconds, or no longer than a minute. It's easy to digest. He's the same thing with the postcard idea. Like we've already started talking about how to make that easier to digest, not as much information. Talked about some things like even just the article language changing will help with that, right?
And we usually put an insert into the messenger as well.
And he's already started brainstorming that as well. Yep.
When you say launch, where is it being launched? And
so they get launched on all of our websites and all of our social medias.
Is there a way?
No, I'm just curious if we can track how many hits we get.
It shows you how many
It would
views
be,
you get.
maybe I'm stepping out of my lane, but one thing that I noticed last year is that our Facebook posts were not getting shared as much as we grew. Our followings grew. But the more people that share those posts, then it just multiplies and multiplies, obviously at an exponential rate. So if anyone's comfortable sharing those or creating a school board Facebook page specifically, so it's not tied to your personal account, the more shares. I mean, I know I wake up in the morning usually and I share it right away. I share it again at noon, I share it at 6 o'clock, just to try to get it out there in the feed so people aren't saying that they're not seeing it, because they get buried and they don't pop up.
If you
So
need
just a
like
little,
someone to like maybe like sit and explain it and do the video, like.
Do you
I
think-
volunteer.
If you're a volunteer,
You can
you love
volunteer.
I would volunteer.
Do you think that
I'll even do my hair.
boards in Highgate and Swanton would post something referring people to that?
the what?
Do you think Highgate and Swanton, where they have the village video board or communications board, we might be able to put some little clip, a brief, referring people, how they can find that information?
Yeah, we could send people to the website.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
for
Budget
updated budget
school budget
information or
information
further
and-
explanation of the budget, here or there. Next year when we have the big sign out here, we'll get it
That
out.
will be helpful.
The only one thing that I kind of wanted to run by you that was proposed from JR is typically right before, we did like the 2 pagers, and those went home in Wednesday weeklies or whatever the electronic version of that is you saw at Highgate or whatever it is. And really that was like a synopsis of your tax rate and, something kind of, bright and colorful, and it was tax rate and really simple summary of the budget and the changes. JR is wondering if he creates a template, and we need to talk to principals about this, but more of a template that's more spoken from the voice of the principals that they could kind of work with and make it their own about their message to support our schools and the budget. And I wanted to see how you felt about that. I hadn't had a chance to touch base with Julie on that, but that's something that we'd have to get moving on kind of quickly too, so. It's like a little different take.
Yeah, I mean, I think the 1 or 2 pager we did was effective. I think it'd be good to narrow that down even more. So it's even easier to kind of digest just the changes in a couple tax rate items.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, if it's spoken from the voice of the principal that these families are all getting newsletters from all the time and it's closer to their community versus, no narrative or from us, then maybe that's better. I don't know.
I think people like to hear from their school principal. I really do.
That was JR's point. And if we're not doing the school level videos, then what are we doing to check that box?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Julie can tell them.
See nods. No, it's not. I mean, something we have to approve.
No, I just
No,
wanted to.
no, it's a, I think that JR will be well placed to help the principals with that language.
Yeah. You good? All right. Anything else here? No. All right. So next we have the letter of resignation, which.
Yeah, so I am going to be asking the board to release our school nurse, Jen Gagne, from her contract. It is heartbreaking to me because she's been here for 13 years and she was a rock during COVID. She held up the school district quite a bit along with her fellow nurses, but she really took the lead, especially in the beginning on that. She is not going to another school. She's leaving the school to go to medical practice. And so we would need to release her from her contract. She expects to be leaving us February 10th. And we will be working to replace her, and we'll be working with other schools in the interim should we need to have coverage while we go through that process.
A lot of kids are gonna miss her.
Oh,
What school?
Highgate.
Highgate.
Highgate Elementary.
She's awesome.
I know. I got the letter today, broke me inside just a little bit. she's tremendous nurse.
We laughed and cried with her.
Yeah.
She's great.
She's a very lovely woman, and I want good things for her, and this is a next stage of her career, and I'm very happy for her.
Yeah.
And Amelia is happy.
All right. So looking for a motion to accept the letter of resignation.
Is that effective immediately?
February 10th.
February 10th.
I'll make that motion.
Begrudgingly.
Begrudgingly, yes.
Steve makes the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Joanne's the second. Any discussion? Alright. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 9-0. Alright, and we did want to just provide information on the board vacancies in the election process, kind of go back to that warning a little bit. As usual, this year we have 3 board seats that will be on the ballot, and then we have a 4th. The normal 3 are the typical 3-year rotation, 1 seat from each town is up, term expires. We had 1 seat in Highgate last year, no one ran, so we appointed a board member, Rennick, and so that seat, the remainder of that 3-year term, so 2 years, will also be on the ballot this year. We know from the board members here that both Stephen and Terry have elected not to run, so we have seats in Highgate and Swanton that we're hoping some folks will be willing to join us, some new folks or some returning folks. We know Rennick is planning to be on the ballot. I don't know for which of those seats,
That's
For
right,
the-
could pick either one.
It's, no, it's for the remainder.
You're going for the remainder, okay, and then,
Cool.
and then, Joanne has elected to be up for reelection. So, any of those seats are also available for any other members of the public from the appropriate town to vie for, whether, you know, those seats where there's none of the board members looking to continue, or we can run against, folks. We haven't had much of that around here. It would be great to have more interest, I'll say that. So,
I will put something on the website, a link on the website so people can reach out, but even in the meantime, people can just call central office and get information about getting,
Yeah, back to the topic of advertising. I mean, it's in the warning and all about those positions, but is that something, being that we haven't had much of a interest in the positions, or?
You mean like advertising in the paper or?
I think the very best way to do it, I mean, we'll put something on the website, we'll do social media. The very best way to do it is to approach people you know that live in your community, Highgate, Swanton, and that you know have an interest in service to the school. Maybe they're, you know, a parent group or someone you know that has students in school, somebody you know who just is, you know, was on the library committee or something and now maybe wants to do something else. That, I think, is a great way to recommend people. And we'll be happy to reach out. I think Rennick sent somebody's email to me and Devin. We haven't heard, but, you know, we can always answer questions about what it means and how to go about it and send someone our way.
So the process, the due date is coming up. Folks do have to get a petition signed by 30, minimum of 30 residents of their town, voters in their town, and that has to be to their town clerk by January 30th, so.
Petition says it has to be
To central office.
Or to central
Clerk.
office, to the
School clerk.
school clerk by January 30th.
Yes.
Okay.
which is at central office.
Yeah, Nola Gilbert is our clerk, but we collect them at central office on her behalf.
She's working on her petition also.
Yep.
So that's the process. So anyone who is interested, those petitions are available where?
We will put them online.
All right.
I've been sending them out to people who are
Okay.
interested in the interim.
Gotcha. All right. So yeah, feel free to reach out to Julie, anyone who might be interested. Probably the best bet. All right. That brings us to the end of our agenda for this evening. Future agenda items will be in Swanton next month. So we'll have some updates from Swanton. We're gonna get some ESSER updates. We had, oh, there's more, okay.
I thought there was, that's why I was confused.
Sorry, I lost my spot. We spent so much time on the budget while we were here at MVU this month. We didn't get to all their data. I think we're gonna look at some student performance data on the STAR 360 exam assessment screening tool. So that's all coming up. Our next board meeting is scheduled for February 7th at the Swanton Central School Library at 6 p.m. And we do have a possible executive session on here, and I believe we do want to use that tonight. There's a personnel matter, employee contract matter. Yep, it's premature public knowledge may put one or more parties at substantial disadvantage. We invite in Julie.
Before we go to that,
Yep.
are you moving to executive session next? Is that what you're
That's
doing?
what we'll do next,
Yeah,
yes.
before we do that, we'll be back at MVU in about 4 months. About. I think everybody probably feels the same way, but I've enjoyed hearing from the ag people and tonight. But one thing I would ask you to consider, when we come back here, we hear from some department heads like math and science. We used to do that in the old days. All due respect to Jen, Jen here, and Tasha, it's always nice to hear what the science department head says about his or her department, what they've worked on and what they're gonna work on. science and math, at least the people that talk to me, if we ever talk curriculum, talk about math and science. That doesn't mean a history and the language arts aren't important. But if there's time when we come back around, I, for one, would like to hear from department heads on where we've been, where we're going. Data is good, but it's also good to know what's happening. So just something to consider.
All right, I've taken that note. Good stuff. All right, so at this time, is there a motion to go to executive session, inviting in Julie and Laura? So Peter's the first, is there a second?
Second.
Rex the second, any discussion?
What's the issue? The
Contract issue.
Contractual issues, okay.
Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Abstentions, motion carries. I didn't see your vote, Jen, so I have 8-0 at the moment.
Aye.
9-0. We are in executive session.